It started with a video. Shocking, brutal, and in my eyes, an obscenity. As a veterinary physiotherapist, I knew what I was seeing wasn't just harsh, it was unacceptable. So I recorded my reaction, and like so many in the equestrian world, I waited to see what would happen next. The public outcry was fierce. The governing body had to respond. But was it enough? Now, in this podcast series, I break down the scandal, the reactions, and the resolutions that followed, tracing the journey from Olympic glory to the moment everything unravelled. This is Charlotte Dujardin, the scandal, the backlash, the consequences. I'm Caroline Lindsay, horsesaddlerider.com. Let's begin. In this episode, I strip away the spin as Alicia Dickinson clarifies her position in this scandal. Because while headlines have been vague, conflicting, and at times deliberately unclear, I'm bringing together what the national news outlets have reported about this global scandal and comparing the inconsistencies, laying out exactly what we know and what's still being carefully avoided now that we have Alicia Dickinson's input. Hello and welcome back. Thank you for following, commenting and subscribing, and to contacting me privately to express your support. Following my last video on what's potentially next for Charlotte Dujardin in terms of potential sanctions, if any, today I want to take a deeper dive into the facts of the case and some dialogue from Carl Hester. So I will be commenting on a couple of news articles from Horse and Hound, The Sun newspaper, and Metro newspaper in the UK. But before I start, I want to make distinction between the FEI and the RSPCA. The RSPCA investigate and prepare cases for the courts of law in the UK, and they are a charity, so they are dependent on the public confidence to fund them to do so. And the FEI is a membership body representing those riders who subscribe to them and their code of conduct rules. So that's the separate roles of both of them. As I said before, usually we would have expected the RSPCA to step in, but as far as I know, and I'd like to get confirmation of this, as far as I know, they are waiting until the FEI have completed their investigations. And I can see why they would do that, because it means that someone else's resources is being dedicated to it. So firstly, let's read about what the lawyer has confirmed on the 24th of July, which is from Horse and Hound, Oscar Williams. Because as the wheel of social media keeps grinding and turning, it's easy to get confused about the facts so as to remember some and not others. So this is directly from the lawyer, Stefan Wensing, the Dutch lawyer representing the claimant who filed the official complaint with the FEI to clarify some of the conflicting reports. One of these was when the incident took place, while Charlotte's statement, which can be read in full below, and I won't be reading that again, said the training session was 4 years ago, and Mr. Wensing disputes this. My client insists the video was filmed 2.5 years ago, not 4, as in Charlotte Dujardin's statement. He said that would have been impossible because the whole world was locked down due to the pandemic. And yes, if you remember, certainly in the UK, we were in and out of lockdown several times, and some were permitted to return to work, key workers, moving around the country, as in Charlotte Dujardin's case, she was, as I understand it, teaching 2 hours away from her base. So in lockdown and just out of lockdown, we were made very aware of the risks of travelling around the country. He added that the girl riding the horse in the video is not in any way involved in raising the official complaint. So there you have it. The rider has been ruled out. My client is the one filming, and the girl on the horse in the lesson has nothing to do with it, said Mr. Wensing. My client was a former student of Charlotte Dujardin and had been to her barn a couple of times and had noticed what she now considers abuse. So there's a fairly important clue there, but the person filming had known Charlotte as she was a former student and visiting her barn a couple of times. So it doesn't sound like she was a working student there, because she only visited a couple of times. So potentially engaging Charlotte Dujardin for freelance lessons. But at the time, she was thinking, Charlotte is a superstar. She's the best rider in the world, so she knows what she's doing. This must be normal. So keep that information in mind, because I'm going to next go on to what Alicia Dickinson comments about being named as the whistleblower. During the training session shown on the video, Charlotte Dujardin explained to the student and my client, okay, so the student being the young rider who was riding, that the horse wasn't cantering enough and must lift up its legs more. It was nothing to do with Piaffe or Passage. It was a small, tall horse, not a Grand Prix horse. So a talented, skilled horse, but not at the higher levels. And Charlotte wanted to improve the canter. Many equestrian fans and others have questioned the timing of the release of the video so close to the Paris Olympics, where Charlotte may have become Britain's most medal-winning female athlete. At the time the video was recorded, my client was thinking this must be normal, he said. So the person filming the video whistleblowing doesn't sound like they have an extensive knowledge about dressage training. Then there was some doubt, and she began thinking this isn't okay. She spoke with a few people in the dressage industry who warned her not to do anything because they'll come after you. So I would imagine that his client would feel very threatened by that. And this is why a lot of people find themselves in situations of abuse and they don't speak out, because they too have something to lose. She was also afraid of victim blaming, so she didn't do anything with it. But then the 2 other riders were suspended, so she became a little braver. Then a few weeks ago, she hired me as a lawyer to submit a formal complaint to the FEI. But she was still doubting whether or not it was the right decision for a few reasons. So the lawyer didn't sit on this for an extended period of time. This happened, or this was reported in the lead up to the Olympics, and it was up to the lawyer to decide when this information about the complaint was released, not the whistleblower. First of all, it's not that she's celebrating this and drinking champagne. She's aware there's a human aspect to this story. I've got another story covering allegedly how Charlotte Dujardin is feeling about this presently. It's not easy to make a step like this. Mr. Wensing described comments suggesting that the timing of the complaint was designed to sabotage Britain's medal hopes as ridiculous. If she wanted to release this at the worst possible time, she would have done it during or after the Olympics. That would have been the worst scenario for the British team. At least now they have an alternate that can come in and it doesn't harm them that much. Yeah, but I think Charlotte Dujardin could still have picked up and kept her medal because she wouldn't have been under investigation at that time, as I see it. And here is Charlotte Dujardin's statement, which I won't read again. So the next story that I want to go over is from The Sun. It states, whistleblower twists woman at centre of Charlotte Dujardin vid leak unmasked as dressage trainer Alicia Dickinson. And this was published on the 26th of July. And what I find most interesting about this case is how the national press has picked up on it and run with it. And last time I presented a BBC Sports News report on this. So the world is watching. It's not just me, as some of you think. A dressage trainer was last night named as one of 3 key witnesses to Charlotte Dujardin's horsewhipping horror. Alicia Dickinson was identified by equestrian sources and online as being in the barn when the incident, which has destroyed Dujardin's hope of becoming Britain's most decorated Olympian, took place. And there's Alicia. There's the whipping video. Yeah, Alicia in a bikini, which the Sun is known for its enthusiastic interest in partially clad females. Ms. Dickinson, an Australian who lives in London with her husband and daughter, runs online and classroom-based learning courses with VIP packages costing up to £50,000 a head. It is understood she took high net worth clients to Dujardin for training. She last night denied being the whistleblower or recording the video. As I just suggested, the person who videoed the incident and then subsequently engaged a lawyer doesn't seem to match that of Alicia Dickinson. Speaking at her home in Battersea, she said, "I'm not the whistleblower. I did not film the footage." So why would she lie? And also, I consider that because her business is dressage, she could risk jeopardizing that by being the individual that called Charlotte Dujardin out on her behavior at a pivotal moment in Charlotte Dujardin's career. So I think because she basically runs in the same circles, I don't think that would have been the time for Alicia Dickinson to do this, even without confirming that she's not the whistleblower. So I don't see her deliberately trying to mislead because she has a fair amount at stake herself. Our business relationship ended after the lesson shown in the video. Well, maybe Charlotte Dujardin ended it rather than Alicia Dickinson. And as Alicia Dickinson has said herself, there may be some videos out there emerging of her treating horses harshly. So I believe her when she says she wasn't the whistleblower. She added, "Charlotte has many enemies. It could have been anyone, but I got the backlash." The footage, allegedly filmed at a training yard around 4 years ago, shows Dujardin following a horse around, lashing at its legs 24 times in a minute. A voice in the background can be heard laughing as Dujardin strikes the animal with a lunging whip. Yeah, and if Alicia Dickinson is indeed the one who's laughing in the background and she's running an educational program, that's not a good look for her. So that's another reason why I believe her. The video was given to Dutch equestrian lawyer Stefan Wensing, who released the bombshell evidence on Monday, forcing Dujardin to quit the Olympics in disgrace. Ms. Dickinson's identity was first revealed by a leading stud and dressage training yard in the Netherlands Another source who worked with Miss Dickinson for a year said they were 100% sure it was her after recognising her unmistakable voice. She's also been named widely online and on social media. And last night, her lawyer confirmed to The Sun that she was there. So she was there. She could have been the one who was laughing, but she says she did not record the video, and she says she's not the whistleblower. But Ms. Dickinson claims she did not film the clip. It is understood the video was taken by the unknown mother of the rider seen on the horse. So there you are. You have confirmation that a young rider was being filmed by her mother. Charlotte Dujardin was teaching her. Charlotte Dujardin has admitted to being the individual in the video seen whipping the horse. And Alicia Dickinson was a bystander. But it is unknown who gave the footage to Mr. Wensing before he passed it on to the sports governing body, the FEI, on Monday. Well, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person filming the video, the mother of the rider, and the whistleblower are one and the same. Mr. Wensing told The Sun yesterday that his client felt sorry for Dujardin, but said the abuse was wrong and wanted to stop it. So yeah, this is another statement which to me suggests some distance from the world of dressage. And as stated previously, she was a student who had witnessed comparable activity on occasion while being with Charlotte Dujardin. He said, "I need to protect the name of my client. My client is so afraid of the witch hunt." So yes, so that fear and also asking around, potentially getting some guidance, advice, hearing that she faced threat by the industry, she felt she had to enlist a lawyer to act on her behalf. All this talk about the timing is victim blaming. It's ridiculous. The timing is not relevant. It's just victim blaming. Victims do not choose the timing in a criminal case. It's no different with this case. My client actually feels very sorry for Charlotte Dujardin, but she did not pick the timing. If she wanted to inflict the worst damage on Charlotte Dujardin, she'd have done it during or after the Olympics. And you can read here who is Alicia Dickinson. She's a Grand Prix dressage rider. She has a vast social media following for a dressage education system. She claims to have reached over 20 million equine enthusiasts worldwide with her coaching on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So she's quite the influencer there. She has VIP packages costing up to £50,000 a head. She lives in London with her husband and daughter. On her company website, she writes, "My story is really the same as most people's. The only difference is I actually succeeded in fulfilling my childhood dreams to become a competitive Grand Prix dressage rider. What got me here is my love for the sport, my love of caring for the animals that make this sport possible, and my ability to believe that I was good enough, but I just didn't understand it, not that I wasn't good enough." And she was not trying to damage the British team's chances. They have a good team, even without Charlotte Dujardin, yes. "My client saw Dujardin abusing a horse several other times," Charlotte told her. "This is how we do it. This is how we train the horses. At first, my client thought, oh, she's an Olympian. Who am I to question her? But she knew it was wrong and wanted to stop it. Dressage people warned her, they'll come for you." Which is why I think Alicia Dickinson is not the whistleblower, because there would have been scrutiny rather than publicising of her teaching activities. They said that Charlotte Dujardin was a dressage superstar and that my client's life would end. So those in the industry had to point out to the lawyer's client that Charlotte Dujardin was a dressage superstar. So it seems that she wasn't aware of the full consequences of outing this behaviour from Charlotte Dujardin, whereas Alicia Dickinson was aware. She had business dealings with Charlotte Dujardin. So all the social media hype, and I'm not protecting Alicia Dickinson here at all, I'm merely looking at the facts. But all the hype in social media about her being the whistleblower and laughing on the video, because although she says she was there, she did not say that she was not laughing or the one who was laughing. If you do have another look at the video, you'll see that there's an image in the mirror of a person apparently filming and an individual that could be Alicia Dickinson, and they're standing fairly close to each other. So you can get a sense who's laughing there. Make your own mind up. My client only felt able to speak out when she saw that 2 other Olympic riders had been suspended this year. Yes, the list is growing. On the FEI webpage listing disciplinary cases. They were also suspended for abusing horses, so my client felt she could finally fight for animal rights. She came forward last weekend and I submitted her complaint to the FEI on Monday, so about a week before Team GB dressage riders were preparing to leave for the Paris Olympics. Dujardin, who was in the running to be a flag bearer in today's Olympic opening ceremony in Paris, has been provisionally suspended for 6 months by the FEI while an investigation is carried out. And I've just made a video on more detail of that. The 39-year-old has been laying low at her £750,000, almost $1 million, American dollars, detached home near Newent in Gloucestershire. The house, which she shares with her partner and 1-year-old daughter, is just a few miles from the multi-medal winning Olympian Carl Hester's training yard where Dujardin works. Charlotte's statement, I won't read that again. Dujardin has been stripped of her funding and her chances of getting a damehood have gone up in smoke following the scandal. She's also been axed as an ambassador by horse welfare charity Brooke. Why would you be an advocate for equine welfare and behaving that way? She would have become Britain's most successful female Olympian if she had won a medal at the Paris Games next week. The Enfield-born competitor, which is on the outskirts of North London, would also have been all but certain to be handed a damehood in the King's New Year's honours list. But Whitehall sources say any such honour for Dujardin is now off the table. And Dujardin's 2017 CBE for services to equestrianism could be reviewed by the Honours Committee. Interesting. So no, and especially with those types of awards, it's not just Olympic medals. Being recognised as an outstanding citizen of the country you were born in, officially recognised, royally recognised, you need to take extreme care of the activities you engage in, because in my view, what she's seen doing in the video is not worthy of recognition as an outstanding citizen of the British Empire. Yesterday, UK Sport said her funding has been suspended pending the conclusion of the FEI probe. Well, I've had a look at Companies House website at Charlotte Dujardin Limited, and she's not short of a few pounds. So having the funding withdrawn doesn't necessarily mean that she
cannot afford to remain in the industry. A spokesman said, "We expect all staff and athletes in Olympic and Paralympic sport to adhere to the highest standards of behaviour, ethics and integrity." And yeah, they have a code of conduct for that. This is Alicia Dickinson. This is Charlotte kissing one of her medals. Alicia Dickinson. And I read out this full statement in an earlier video, so I won't read it again. And there concludes that report, which makes it very clear who the whistleblower potentially is not. And when you hear it from a lawyer, they usually are very clear about what is and what isn't a fact.
If you found this episode thought-provoking, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, leave a review. It really helps more equestrians and horse lovers find the podcast. You can also join the conversation on the Horse Saddle Rider YouTube channel. And finally, I'll be giving you more insights into the equestrian world. So be sure to come back and join me so that together we can campaign for better conditions for our sport horses.